When they came out to take a look, they realized that it wasn't just the crater. Even the ground within a radius of 7 or 8 kilometers was cracking. Dazzling white light shot into the sky from the cracks. The entire ground suddenly protruded, and the earth quaked. Something huge was rising from the ground, and it was getting taller and taller. After a while, it finally left the ground and rose into the air. Only then did they see that it was a huge stone peak. It looked even bigger than the main peak of the Black Heaven sect. However, there were all sorts of strange talismans floating around the stone peak, as if it was surrounded by layers of array formations. As the stone peak rose into the air, the top of the peak began to flash with lightning and thunder. A purple bolt of lightning pierced through the air, and the air suddenly began to distort. In a short while, a translucent entrance that looked like a water mirror appeared on the peak. Faintly, they could see another world inside. The immortal mountains were vast, and the spirit chi in the mountains was so dense that it was shocking. There was even a faint 7-colored mist. No, that was not spirit chi. It was immortal chi. This is the entrance to the ancient mystic realm. Lone One's eyes widened in disbelief. No wonder there was an ancient spirit-exterminating array at the bottom of the crater. There was an ancient mystic realm hidden underground. In the Azure world, the ancient mystic realm had long been a legend. Although there were countless books and records left behind, no one knew if it really existed. Who would have thought that they would actually find an intact mystic realm here? What's a mystic realm? Shun-Ing looked at the mountain that had suddenly emerged from the ground. Lone Moon turned back to look at her, unable to hide his excitement as he explained, a mystic realm is a small world that is independent of the Azure world. Although the map inside is a little smaller, it is a world of its own. Legend has it that only in the ancient times could there be spells to open mystic realms. Nowadays, there are very few mystic realms that appear in the Azure world. What's more, this is an ancient mystic realm. Oh, that means this is a pocket dimension. You could say that. Why did it feel like Shun-Ying's words were of a lower standard? He cleared his throat and regained his composure. In a low voice, he said, "The ancient mystic realm has appeared. We don't know how long this entrance will last. Now that the situation in the mystic realm is unclear, we have to inform the sect as soon as possible. We have to discuss a plan before we go in to investigate." Lone Moon turned back to look at the mirror-like entrance on top of the stone peak. He did not know whether it was a good or bad thing that this mystic realm had appeared near the Black Heaven sect. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go straight back to the sect. Shun-Ing and I Ching had no objections, so they nodded and bade farewell to the civet cat. Together, they turned back and flew in the direction of the Black Heaven sect. Lone Moon flew very fast, almost at the fastest speed he could fly on his sword. It only took him half the time to return to the sect. When he arrived, he vaguely felt that he had forgotten something, but he did not have time to think about it. Sigh, forget it, it's not important. Chung-Un and the disciples who were waiting at the inn. When will Uncle Master come back to remove this array? At the same time, in the pantheon of demons, the rabbit monarch, who had finally received a congratulatory gift, opened the crumpled white cloth in the box. Instantly, its legs gave way, and it almost fell off its throne. On the cloth was written, "Rabbit, I'm taking the carrot that the cat gave me. Don't blame it. Shun-Ing Shun. Shun. Exalted Immortal Shun." Was it blind? Was this really written by Exalted Immortal Shun, whom it had not seen for a long time? But in this world, she was the only one who called the purple cloud Lingji a carrot. But it was fine if she took the congratulatory gift. But why did she write a letter in blood? Was it a threat? This was a blatant threat. But what did Bunny do wrong? Why didn't Exalted Immortal say it? The rabbit monarch's little heart trembled. Once again, it felt the fear of being ruled by a glutton on the night of the 1,000 demon meat. It's over, what do I do? It thought for a moment, then immediately turned around and ordered, "Someone, hurry! Hurry! Check what else is in the treasury. Send everything to Exalted Immortal Shun's old residence. Yes, leave nothing behind. Also, go and clean up Exalted Immortal Shun's old residence. Yes, the kind that is spotless. Forget it. I'll go myself. Chapter 38. I'll go to the main peak to look for Shichio. As soon as they returned to Black Heaven's sect, Lone Moon gave them a few instructions. He did not bother about the other two and hurriedly went to find the sect leader to discuss the mystic realm. I Ching sent Shuning back to Ingyuan Peak and looked at the sky. It's almost noon. Master, please wait for a moment. I'll go collect today's ingredients and be back soon. All right. Shuning nodded. She turned around and entered the house. She sprawled on the stone table and dozed off. So tired. She did not sleep at all to deal with the green fox. She was really sleepy. After lying there for a while, his upper and lower eyelids were about to fall in love. I Ching, who had just left, came back with a conflicted look. So fast. Shuning tilted her head and glanced at him. Where's the food you collected? Didn't he go to collect the ingredients? Why did he come back empty-handed? Master, I Ching looked guilty. The people from the External Affairs Hall said that our monthly amount of spirit rice has been collected. She was stunned. Isn't there an unlimited supply? I just found out too. There is a limit to the monthly supply of spirit rice. If he had known earlier, he would not have made so many pastries. It was all that freeloader's fault. Yes, he must have eaten too much and caused Master to have no rice to cook. The External Affairs Hall said that we can use spirit stones to exchange with other disciples, but Shun Ying's mouth twitched. Understand, they had no money. After a few months, she finally remembered the biggest crisis since she transmigrated. Poverty. Don't worry, Master. In 2 days, it will be the day of the sect's distribution. I can collect my spirit stones then. I Ching immediately comforted her. And there are many beasts around Black Heaven's sect. Master may have to eat some meat these few days. I'll go catch it now. What a good chef. Shuning sighed. As a master, she was so poor that she could not even afford to pay for a meal. She even had to let her disciple hunt for wild animals. It was really too convenient. Then I'll leave it to you. Shuning patted his shoulder. Go, I'll wait for you. Yes, master. No problem, master. I Ching nodded vigorously, turned around, and flew away. She sighed again. In terms of a chef's professionalism, he deserved full marks. However, he couldn't go on like this. It seemed that it was time to find a way to make money. If she had known earlier, she would have picked up the gold that the civet cat had dropped. It was all that temporary chef's fault. Achoo! On the main peak, Lone Moon, who was in the middle of a discussion, sneezed. Why did it feel like someone was scolding him? Uncle Master? Shichio gave him a puzzled look. It's okay, you can continue. All right, I feel that the matter regarding the ancient mystic realm is of great importance. The reappearance of the ancient mystic land was a good thing. When he first heard the news, he was ecstatic. After all, it was an ancient mystic land. Moreover, no one had ever set foot in it before. Who knew how many rare treasures were hidden inside? Who wouldn't like it? Who wouldn't be excited? However, after the ecstasy, a bit of worry surfaced in his heart. Before, the spiritual light shot into the sky. The various sects must have sensed it and sent people to investigate. It won't be long before everyone knows about this. Yes, I'm aware of that. Lone Moon nodded. But this mystic realm appeared in Black Heaven's sect's territory after all. We can't just ignore it. As for the matter of entering the mystic realm, you are the sect leader, so this matter is up to you to decide. I just feel that there's a limit to how long the secret realms can remain open. Since this is something that the sect will find out about sooner or later, I'm sure they'll find out sooner or later. Why don't we directly inform the 3 sects and 6 schools and invite them to enter the mystic realm together to find out what's going on? Shichio said in a low voice. As for the candidates to enter the mystic realm, it's up to each sect to decide. After all, this is an ancient mystic realm. There are opportunities and risks. It all depends on one's luck. Yes, I think so too. Lone Moon nodded. If that's the case, I'll send word to the various sections. Shichio bowed and quickly walked out the door. Lone Moon thought about it and turned to go to Ling Shao Peak. After all, this was a big matter. He needed to let the other 2 supremacies know so that they could decide who would enter the mystic realm as soon as possible. Once the people from the various sects and clans had gathered, they would enter the secret realm together. However, He did not expect that before the 3 sects and 6 schools could respond, a few unexpected guests arrived. The 3 people suddenly appeared in the sky above Black Heaven sect. Their appearance was accompanied by several sounds of heavenly music. The sky behind them seemed to have been torn apart. They had come through the void. Lone Moon and Shichio were shocked and did not react for a moment. After a while, they realized they were people from the Upper Azure World. Why would people from the Upper Azure World come to a sect in the Middle Azure World? Where's your sect leader? The 3 people hovered in the sky for a while. The person on the far right glanced at the main peak under his feet. His eyes were full of contempt, as if he despised everything around him. He even released a faint coercion from his body. This was the coercion of a soul formation cultivator. Shichio was shocked. He stepped forward and said, "I am Black Heaven sect leader Shichio. May I know why the supremacies of the Upper Azure World are here?" Only then did the 3 of them descend from the sky and stop at the entrance of the main hall. They looked at Shichio with a look of disdain, but when they saw Lone Moon beside him, they froze for a moment. Their eyes darted around, and they finally looked a little more cautious. "I am an elder of the Xinyuan family of the Upper Azure World. My Taoist name is Qing Yin. These 2 are my senior brothers." Qing Yin raised his head slightly and said proudly. Shichio was even more shocked. The Xinyuan family. The Middle Azure World did not know much about the Upper Azure World, but they had heard of this family name. It was one of the 4 great aristocratic families of the Upper Azure World. Why would they suddenly send an elder to a sect in the lower realm, and 3 of them at once? The appearance of the ancient mystic realm has caused a phenomenon in the Upper Azure World. We are here to investigate on the orders of the Patriarch. Qing Yin continued. The dangers of this mystic realm are unknown, and even the Upper Azure World knows little about the ancient land. To prevent any mishaps, we are willing to help the Middle Azure World enter the mystic realm first. Shichio's face darkened. It turned out that they were also attracted by the ancient mystic realm. What help? It was obvious that they wanted a share of the spoils, and from their tone, they wanted to be the first to enter the mystic realm. How is that possible? Thank you for your kind intentions, supremacies. This mystic realm has appeared in the territory of my Black Heaven sect. It is not convenient for my sect to handle it alone. So yesterday we invited all the sects to discuss the matter of entering the mystic realm. I'm afraid that all the sects are already at the entrance of the mystic realm, so there is no need for you 3 supremacies to test the waters. What? Qing Yin was stunned. He did not expect that after someone discovered the ancient mystic realm, not only did they not rush to claim ownership of it and claim it for their own sect, but they even informed the other sects to share it. His brows furrowed instantly. Indeed, they were just cultivators from the lower realm. A bunch of idiots. The suppressive force of a soul formation cultivator was immediately released towards the other party. Lone Moon, who was beside him, sensed it immediately and released his suppressive force at the same time, pushing back the other party's aura. So what if they were from the Upper Azure World? Their Black Heaven sect was not to be trifled with. Qing Yin was shocked and was forced to take a step back. He did not expect that the person beside him, who was only at the early stage of the soul formation stage, could block his suppressive force. Just as he was about to counterattack, the person in the middle who had been silent all this time suddenly took a step forward. In an instant, an even stronger suppressive force came back at him. Lone Moon frowned, almost unable to block it. He looked at the other party in surprise. This was not the suppressive force of a soul formation cultivator. This person was a traveling immortal who had achieved disintegration. The so-called traveling immortal referred to cultivators who had reached the ascension stage but failed to ascend. In order to save their lives, they had no choice but to disintegrate and become traveling immortals. Although traveling immortals were also cultivators, they were not considered real immortals. However, they were stronger than the soul formation cultivators. It was just that after disintegration, they no longer had the chance to ascend. What was so special about the ancient mystic realm that it made the resource-rich Upper Azure World send 3 high-level cultivators, one of whom was even a traveling immortal, over there? Chapter 39. You're a sword cultivator. The traveling immortal was shocked as well. An early-stage soul formation cultivator could actually remain unscathed under his coercion. Only a sword cultivator could do that. Yes, Lone Moon answered and became even more vigilant. Seeing your brother Qing Lan and the rest. Qing Yin stepped forward as if he wanted to say something. Forget it. The traveling immortal cut him off. Since this matter has already been publicized, let the others enter if they want to. But we have already warned you about the risks inside. Take care of yourselves. Qing Yin seemed to have thought of something, and his lips curled into a malicious smile. That's true. Anyway, only cultivators with at least nascent soul cultivation can enter the mystic realm. Other sects can also enter if they want. Every ancient realm is filled with ferocious beasts. Let's see how many of you are willing to enter. Only nascent soul cultivators can enter. Shichio's eyes widened in shock. Only nascent soul cultivators and above could enter the mystic realm. Although Black Heaven sect had many nascent soul cultivators, they could not compare to the Upper Azure world. And from his tone, even nascent soul cultivators would not be able to go deep into the mystic realm. The entrance to the ancient mystic realm usually only opens once every 5 to 1,000 years, and it lasts for 3 months at most. You immortal sect from the lower realm better hurry up. Qing Yin laughed mockingly. The three of them rode on their swords and disappeared into the sky. Needless to say, they must have entered the mystic realm. What should we do? The more Shichio thought about it, the more conflicted he became. Of course they had to enter, and they could not be late. Who knew if the upper realm would send more people? After all, this was an ancient mystic realm. But Black Heaven sect had a limited number of nascent soul cultivators and could not send all of them in. Moreover, 2 of the 3 soul formation cultivators were still in seclusion and could not come out. I'll go in and see what's going on. Lone Moon also thought of this and said in a low voice, let's not talk about what's going on in the mystic realm. Just this trip by the 3 of them has created a feud with Black Heaven sect. It's not appropriate for the other nascent soul hall masters to go. I can at least protect myself. Uncle Master, he was indeed the most appropriate person to go. But I have to bring 2 more people. Who? I Ching. That's right. There's also perfected I Ching. He was also a sword cultivator and was not inferior to a soul formation supremacy. He was indeed very suitable. There's also his master. What? Shichio was stunned. He has a master? Lone Moon had a good plan. That traveling immortal did not look easy to deal with, and no one knew what was in the mystic realm. In this situation, he could only use cheats. Given Shun Ying's perverted powers, bringing her along would be more useful than bringing along a dozen soul formation cultivators. Although she was a little lazy, a little bad with directions, a little perverted, a little troublesome, and a little infuriating, in terms of safety, she was indeed useful. He had never fought a traveling immortal before, but Shun Ying could at least fight him to a draw, right? In addition, he and I Ching might not win for sure, but they wouldn't lose. He had everything planned out. Given his relationship with Shan Ying, this favor, I'm not going. Shan Ying tilted her head, which was slumped on the table. Lone Moon's chest tightened. His face hurt. Why? Never in his wildest dreams would he have expected her to reject him. It's so troublesome. She hated going out the most. It would be better to sleep at home. Troublesome my ass. He could not help but help the pile of mud on the table up again. You should at least be polite and find a more proper reason. What the hell is troublesome? I'm not going. She leaned back on the table again. She was about to run out of food. Why bother going out? She might as well save her energy. Holy shit. Just do me a favor. We're from the same hometown. Do you have to be so disloyal? Just go into the mystic realm and you'll be back in 3 months. It'll be fast. I helped you to Sword Comprehension Peak last time. You should return the favor. It's not suitable to go out now. Why? I want to hibernate. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. It's spring now. Oh, then hibernate in spring. Spring your ass. Lone Moon was fuming, but there was nothing he could do about this shameless person in front of him. He could only continue to persuade her. This is a big matter for the sect. If you help me, everyone will remember your kindness. I'm not going. There's no salary. Lone Moon felt his blood pressure rise. He had an urge to strangle the person in front of him. He took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. After some thought, he took out a bag of spirit stones from the storage bag beside him and slammed it on the table. Salary. Shen Ying's eyes narrowed into slits. She moved forward like a pile of mud. She opened the bag and saw that it was filled with superior-grade spirit stones. Air. The lazy person was getting restless. 3 months is too long. The damn homebody had never been away from home for so long. Boom! Another bag slammed on the table. The lazy person on the table immediately stood up. She stepped forward and held Lone Moon's hand. She said righteously, "Father Nyo, when do we set off?" "Get lost. Who's your Father Nyo?" "All right, Father Nyo." She picked up the 2 bags of spirit stones and turned to run towards the kitchen. As she ran, she said proudly, "Chef, we have money now. Shall we go buy some groceries?" "Yes, Master. No problem, Master. Master is so amazing. To hell with friendship." This little animal had such a big breath. She tilted her head and looked at the mountain-like piece of meat in front of her. She thought about its edibility. Could it be eaten with bad breath? Unfortunately, Chef was not by her side. She thought about it and decided to give up. She would find Chef and Father Nyo first. Thus, he turned around and looked for a random direction to look for someone. "Why are you following me?" Just as he took 2 steps, he turned around and saw that there was an extra tail behind him. The radish spirit was hopping after him. Gee. The radish shook its leaves and hopped over at a faster speed. A few of its leaves wrapped around her leg as if trying to please her. It said excitedly, Gee, what the hell was that?" Shinning shook her leg and shook off its leaves. Go. Go squat in your radish pit." She did not like radishes. Gee. Its voice deepened and even its leaves withered. The whole radish looked sad from being rejected. Shinning could not be bothered with it. Just as she was about to continue looking for someone, she suddenly heard 2 familiar voices coming from not far ahead. "Shun Ing, Master." The voices rose and fell continuously, as if they were broadcasting on a loop. The corner of Shen Ying's mouth twitched. She turned around and walked in that direction. When she passed by the giant beast, she pulled it out and dragged it away. Everywhere she went, the trees fell to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. It was like a sandstorm had covered half the forest. Now there was Chef. 100 miles away, the Upper Azure World trio. "What's that sound?" Qing Yin paused and looked into the distance. "What's happening in front? Why is the sky suddenly filled with yellow sand?" "Someone must have been unlucky enough to meet a ferocious beast," Qing Lan answered. "From the looks of it, it's most likely the beast king of this forest. It's at least a 12th level beast. Then there's no other way. We can only change direction. Go." To prevent the situation from happening again, where she was on the other side of the river but could not be found no matter what, I Ching and Lone Moon shouted for a whole hour before they finally saw Shun Ing strolling towards them. She was even dragging a mountain? "Master." I Ching stepped forward to greet her. "Hey, Chef." Shinning waved her hand in greeting. "What's this?" Lone Moon looked at the giant beast behind her. The roar he heard just now could be this. "Why'd you drag this thing over?" "Meat," she replied matter-of-factly. She turned to I Ching and said, "You haven't had lunch, right? Come, Chef. See which part of the meat is good and choose whatever you like." The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. "You're the only one who wants to eat meat. You're a foodie indeed. You can't forget to eat no matter what." "Master, this can't be eaten," I Ching answered with a troubled expression. "Why?" Chapter 41. What's a vegetation spirit? Shinning paused. It looked like a radish, no matter how she looked at it. A vegetation spirit is a living thing formed by the accumulation of spirit chi, Lone Moon explained. Spirit herbs and spirit plants have spirit chi in them and live longer than demon beasts, but they cannot develop sentience. However, if it was in a place with an especially large number of spirit plants, the dense with spirit chi might be able to induce the emergence of vegetation spirits among the spirit plants. But the probability is so low that it's negligible. This is my first time seeing a vegetation spirit. "Oh, what's the use of that?" It's still a radish. Of course it's useful. Lone Moon looked at the vegetation spirit in her hand excitedly. It's formed by the accumulation of spirit chi from spirit plants, so it can sense the existence of all spirit plants in the world. In other words, as long as you bring it with you, you'll know the location of all the spirit plants in this mystic realm. I see. So this was a vegetable version of a GPS. It's said that using the vegetation spirit's flower to refine pills can increase the grade of the pills. I Ching added as he looked at the vegetation spirit. It can flower? Shen Ying's eyes widened. A potted plant? But this vegetation spirit doesn't seem to be in its flowering stage yet. G. The moment she finished speaking, the radish in her hand suddenly wriggled excitedly. Shen had no choice but to let go. The moment the vegetation spirit landed on the ground, the entire radish shrunk downwards. Even its body shrunk. The leaves on its head all curled up as if it was using all its strength. Even its cries turned into squeaks. Air. Was it constipated? After holding in for a long time, it suddenly straightened its body and its leaves spread out. There was a spluttering sound, and a snow-white flower appeared on its head. Dandelion. Why did a dandelion grow from a radish? Did it mutate? It's blooming, I Ching exclaimed. The radish curled its leaves and plucked the dandelion off its head. It handed it to Shen Ying as if to please her. No, dandelions were very sticky to clothes. This is 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit. I Ching was even more shocked. If ordinary vegetation spirits could raise the grade of pills, then the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirits flowers were practically synonymous with supreme grade pills. Any pill refined with its flowers would definitely be supreme grade pills. No wonder the Upper Azure world sent traveling immortals to this mystic realm. Lone Moon finally understood what the three of them were looking for in the mystic realm. They're looking for this vegetation spirit? I Ching asked. It should be. Lone Moon nodded. I heard that one of the 4 aristocratic families in the Upper Azure world has cultivators who specialize in refining elixirs. It looked at the 2 people in front of it who had already flown away, then looked at the leg it was hugging. It seemed to have just realized that it had hugged the wrong person. Immediately, it swung its leaves and threw the flower that it was holding onto the ground. It made a small sound. Pooey. Lone Moon. Was he being looked down upon by this radish? He was definitely being looked down upon. You hugged the wrong leg, and you're blaming me? Go down if you have the guts. For all, with the vegetation spirit's guidance, Lone Moon finally experienced what it felt like to be a nouveau riche. Those high-grade spirit grasses and spirit plants were like his own backyard deans. Every single one of them was harvested accurately, and every single one of them was a spirit plant that was over 10,000 years old. What's more, he did not have to do anything himself. The vegetation spirit only had to wave its leaves lightly, and those spirit herbs would fly into the storage bag on their own. Just thinking about the reaction of the 3 people in the Upper Azure world when they found nothing made him feel that this trip was really worth it. They spent more than a month until their storage bags were full. Only then did they give up harvesting and focus on flying towards the center of the mystic realm. The 3 of them flew for 4 to 5 days before they finally exited the endless forest. Suddenly, a wasteland appeared in front of them. Compared to the forest before, this place was like the other extreme. There were steep cliffs and strange rocks everywhere. There was not a single bit of green in sight. It was so quiet that not even the sounds of insects and birds could be heard. The spirit chi here is a little strange. I Ching frowned and suddenly said, "What do you feel?" Lone Moon could also see that there was something strange about this place. He became alert. "I'm not sure yet." I Ching shook his head. The spirit chi here was very thick, even thicker than in the forest before. But for some reason, he felt that there was something strange about this spirit chi. There must be something hidden here. Be careful. Lone Moon nodded. He slowed down the speed of his flying sword and flew forward. They flew for a few more hours. They could no longer see anything apart from the rocks. But they did not find anything strange. "Don't you feel?" Shen Ying suddenly said, "a little hot?" Chapter 42. What's a vegetation spirit? Shining paused. It looked like a radish, no matter how she looked at it. A vegetation spirit is a living thing formed by the accumulation of spirit chi, Lone Moon explained. Lone Moon explained, spirit herbs and spirit plants have spirit chi in them and live longer than demon beasts, but they cannot develop sentience. However, if it was in a place with an especially large number of spirit plants, the dense with spirit chi might be able to induce the emergence of vegetation spirits among the spirit plants. But the probability is so low that it's negligible. This is my first time seeing a vegetation spirit. Oh, what's the use of that? It's still a radish. Of course it's useful. Lone Moon looked at the vegetation spirit in her hand excitedly. It's formed by the accumulation of spirit chi from spirit plants, so it can sense the existence of all spirit plants in the world. In other words, as long as you bring it with you, you'll know the location of all the spirit plants in this mystic realm. I see. So this was a vegetable version of a GPS. It said that using the vegetation spirit's flower to refine pills can increase the grade of the pills. I Ching added. It can bloom? Shen Ying's eyes widened. A potted plant? But this vegetation spirit doesn't seem to be in its flowering stage yet. G. The radish in her hand suddenly wriggled excitedly. Shining had no choice but to let go. The moment the vegetation spirit landed on the ground, the entire radish shrunk downwards. Even its body was curled up. The leaves on its head all curled up as if it was using all its strength. Even its cries turned into squeaks. Air. Was it constipated? After holding in for a long time, it suddenly straightened its body and its leaves spread out. With a puff, a snow-white flower appeared on top of his head. Dandelion. Why did a radish grow a dandelion? Did it mutate? It's blooming, I Ching exclaimed. The radish curled up its leaves and plucked the dandelion off its head. It handed it to Shen Ying as if to please her. No. Dandelions were very sticky. This is the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit. I Ching was even more shocked. If ordinary vegetation spirits could raise the grade of pills, then the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirits flowers were practically synonymous with supreme grade pills. Any pill refined with its flowers would definitely be supreme grade pills. No wonder the upper azure world sent traveling immortals to this mystic realm. Lone Moon finally understood what the three of them were looking for in the mystic realm. They're looking for this vegetation spirit? I Ching asked. It should be. Lone Moon nodded. I heard that one of the 4 aristocratic families in the upper azure world has cultivators who specialize in refining elixirs. The family's most precious treasure is the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit, and it's the only one in the world. Vegetation spirits can't possibly grow in a place suitable for human cultivators. They also need dense with spirit chi. I Ching continued. That's why he thought that there would be some in this mystic realm. That's right. Lone Moon looked at the vegetation spirit on the ground with a complicated expression. It kept raising its flower high, trying to give it to someone. If the three of them knew that the thing they were looking for had been picked up by Shining the moment they entered the mystic realm, would they explode in anger? Great. Let's see how they're going to act tough now. Lone Moon's entire body felt good. Even a certain foodie seemed more pleasing to the eye. Shining, how exactly did you make it recognize you as its owner? He was curious. Vegetation spirits were born from gathering spirit chi from heaven and earth. They were extremely arrogant creatures, and it was extremely difficult to tame them. Recognize you as its owner? I didn't. It didn't. Lone Moon looked at it dumbfounded. Why did it follow you if it didn't? And it even took the initiative to bloom flowers to please her. How would I know? It wanted to follow me. Shining looked down at the dandelion on the ground. Seeing that she did not want it, and was even working hard to bloom a second flower, she took a step back in disgust. If you like it, I'll give it to you. Me? Lone Moon was shocked. Even the upper azure world was trying so hard to get their hands on something. How could you just give it away so easily? Did she know what a vegetation spirit meant? It meant countless spirit herbs and elixirs. Did she still want to increase her cultivation level or not? Wait, It seemed like she really did not need it. Damn. Instead, the vegetation spirit on the ground seemed to understand what the two of them were talking about. Suddenly, it began to wave its leaves anxiously. G. The radish was unwilling. Lomun's mouth twitched. Forget it. I'm not a pill cultivator. What's more, it has already recognized you. Even if I wanted to form a contract with it, I would fail. Oh, Shining still looked indifferent. Why don't we throw it away? Throw it away, my ass. He had said so much for nothing just now, hadn't he? Then what do we do? She did not want to keep carrying a leg pendant. It was very heavy. Let's bring it back first. He turned to look around. It's getting late. There must be other things in this mystic realm. Let's hurry and go to the east. Shining had no objections. I Ching directly summoned his spirit sword and flew up with Shun Ing habitually. Lone Moon was about to fly up on his sword when he felt something heavy on his leg. Looking down, he coincidentally bumped into a leg pendant. GG. The radish was stunned. It looked at the two people in front of it who had already flown away, then looked down at the leg it was hugging. It seemed to have just realized that it had hugged the wrong person. Immediately, it swung its leaves in through the flower that it was holding onto the ground. It made a small sound. Pooey. Lone Moon. Was he being looked down upon by this radish? He was definitely being looked down upon. You hugged the wrong leg, and you're blaming me? Go down if you have the guts. For all. With the vegetation spirit's guidance, Lone Moon finally experienced what it felt like to be a nouveau riche. Those high-level spirit herbs and plants were like his own backyardines. They were all spirit herbs that were more than 10,000 years old and above. What's more, he did not have to do anything himself. The vegetation spirit only had to wave its leaves lightly, and those spirit herbs would fly into the storage bag on their own. Just thinking about the reaction of the three people in the Upper Azure world when they failed to find anything, he felt that this trip was really worth it. They spent more than a month until their storage bag was full. Only then did they give up harvesting and focus on flying towards the center of the mystic realm. The three of them flew for 4 to 5 days before they finally exited the forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. Suddenly, a wasteland appeared in front of them. Compared to the forest from before, this place seemed to be the other extreme. There were steep cliffs and strange rocks everywhere. There was not a single bit of green in sight. It was so quiet that not even the sounds of insects and birds could be heard. The spirit chi here is a little strange. I Ching frowned and suddenly said, "What do you feel?" Lone Moon could also see that there was something strange about this place and became wary. "I'm not sure yet." I Ching shook his head. The spirit chi here was very thick, even thicker than in the forest from before. However, for some reason, he felt that there was something strange about this spirit chi. There must be something hidden here. Be careful. Lone Moon nodded. He slowed down the speed of his flying sword and flew forward. They flew for a few more hours. They could no longer see anything apart from the rocks. However, they did not find anything strange. "Don't you feel," Shining suddenly said, "a little hot?" Chapter 43. Fellow Taoist, although this 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit is a treasure, it's only a treasure to a core cultivator. You are a sword cultivator. This thing is of no use to you. Why don't you give it to the Xian Yuan family? Qing Lan's expression changed. He smiled and stepped forward. "Don't worry, fellow Taoist. I promise that as long as you give it to us, we will discuss any treasures we find in this immortal palace. We will not make things difficult for you." Lone Moon's expression darkened. He had seen shameless people before, but not to this extent. What he meant was that he wanted them to give the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit to them. What a good plan, fellow Taoist. You want to take the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit we found with empty promises? This vegetation spirit has its own sentience and might not even follow you. Forgive me for being blunt. He looked at Qing Yin, who seemed to be doing him a favor, and said word by word, "Don't you have any King shame?" The three men's expressions darkened. Qing Yin snorted. "You want to do this the hard way? Let's see what you're capable of. Senior brother, there's no need to waste words with him. Take him down first." With that, he summoned his Dharma artifact and charged forward. Since his threats had failed, He wanted to take it by force. Lone Moon laughed coldly and put the vegetation spirit into his storage bag. As he summoned his weapon, he whispered, "Shunning, I'll leave the one in the middle to you later." Shunning answered. Lone Moon blocked Qing Yin's attack with his sword. The two rays of sword chi collided, and the remnant sword chi split open the surrounding area. Their cultivation levels were similar, but Lone Moon was a sword cultivator after all. His sword chi was naturally different from that of ordinary cultivators. He forced Qing Yin back a few meters. You overestimate yourself." Traveling immortal Qing Lan frowned and snorted coldly. He glanced at the other cultivator beside him and flew forward to attack as well. I Ching went straight for the other cultivator. As a traveling immortal, Qing Lan did not care about the nascent soul I Ching at all. He followed Qing Yin and charged at Lone Moon, who had the highest cultivation level. Lone Moon had just forced Qing Yin back with his sword when Qing Lan's traveling immortal aura appeared in front of him. The sword was about to land on his opponent. Suddenly, Qing Lan felt something heavy in his hand. The spiritual power he had just condensed dissipated. His hand had been grabbed by someone. He was shocked. Ever since he became a traveling immortal, this was the first time someone had gotten close to him without him noticing. He opened his eyes wide and looked back, only to see a casual face. Who was this person? When did it appear? Before he could figure out, he saw the woman say, casually, she said, "Leave it to me," the kind that gave him money. "So please cooperate." Chapter 44. I'm leaving. Shunning turned and walked out of the hall. Wait! The immortal soul rushed forward and floated in front of her. As if making an important decision, he gritted his teeth and said, "Forget it. It doesn't matter if you don't have a spirit root. I can carve some jade slips or copy them into books. You just have to bring them out." No, she was not a courier. "Don't go, little girl. You're already here. Are you sure you don't want to bring something back?" Seeing that she was still unmoved, the immortal soul anxiously rushed over and hugged her leg. "I've waited for tens of thousands of years, and you came alone. If you don't bring it, who will? If I don't bring the legacy out, I won't be able to rest in peace. Who said I came in alone?" Shunning suddenly stopped in her tracks. Huh? The immortal soul was stunned and did not react. "There are others?" "Yes." Shunning pointed outside and was just about to answer. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. The door that had a big hole in it finally collapsed. The sky was filled with spirit swords. They flew in and stabbed into the ground. Along with the flying swords, Qing Yin fell to the ground with a thud. The arrogant man was now covered in blood and seriously injured. The next wave of spirit swords was about to stab him. Another figure flashed by and pulled the man on the ground up to avoid the next wave of attacks. It was another cultivator from the Upper Azure world. I Ching and Lone Moon had also caught up. Lone Moon was fine, but I Ching had a few more wounds on his body. "Thank you, Senior Brother Qing Yi." Qing Yin took a step back with lingering fear. Qing Yi did not reply. Instead, he glanced coldly at the two people who had caught up with him. His eyes stopped on I Ching. "I didn't expect a nascent soul cultivator to have such strength. I was too careless." In an instant, there were 4 more people in the hall. There were people, there really were people. That's great. The immortal soul's eyes widened, and he was ecstatic. He stopped hugging Qing Yin's leg and turned to float toward I Ching. "Haha, young cultivator, you and I are fated, cut the crap. Let's fight." Before he could finish speaking, I Ching had already rushed towards the person in the air again. His sword moved again, and the sky was filled with sword light again. The immortal soul had no choice but to look at Lone Moon. "This fated person, let's see where you can run to." With a whoosh, Lone Moon also attacked. What kind of bunch of weirdos were they? Was fighting more important than inheriting the legacy? Was anyone listening to him? The situation in the sky was already very clear. Carrying an injured Qing Yin, he had no choice but to dodge the attacks of the two. Lone Moon laughed coldly at the two of them. "So the supremacies of the Upper Azure world are only this strong? Isn't it too easy to be an elder of your family? Lone Moon's heart sank. He suddenly had a bad feeling. "Stop him." He rushed over and manifested his sword intent. At the same time, I Ching also attacked. Two beams of sword intent attacked the other party with all their might. Ching Yi looked back and snorted coldly, but he did not retreat. I don't have time to waste on you. He suddenly turned his hand and struck the back of the person beside him, pushing Ching Yin out to meet the two's full force attack. Senior brother, Ching Yin was completely unprepared. It was too late for him to dodge. He could only look on in disbelief as he turned into ashes in the sky, full of sword intent. Ching, he had already turned around and disappeared into the wall. The wall also returned to its original appearance. F***CK. Lone Moon cursed. He had thought that the other party would at least try to stop him from entering. He did not expect that in order to enter, he would directly push Ching Yin out to die. The traveling immortals of the Upper Azure world were indeed ruthless. I wonder what's behind this wall. Why would that person be willing to betray the door? Lone Moon glanced at the shining wall in front of him. He subconsciously conjured a few spells and slammed them against the wall, but found that the wall did not react at all. He was stunned. This array formation was immune to spells. Why don't I do it? Shining lifted her foot out of habit. Wait. Thinking of the furnace door that was kicked open earlier, Lone Moon hurriedly pulled her back. All right, Grandaunt. If you kick it, I think the entire Immortal Palace will collapse. Oh. Shen Ying retracted her foot. She would not kick it. She was too lazy to move. This wall seems to be an ancient array formation. You need a token to enter. Lone Moon thought of the item that Ching Yi had taken out just now. He carefully studied the array formation in front of him again. The eye of this array is constantly changing and is connected to the entire Immortal Palace. If you do not have the right way to break the array, you may destroy the entire Immortal Palace along with it. It's a pity that this array formation has long been lost. No one knows how to break it. Or someone might know. Shen Ying raised her hand. The two of them were stunned. Suddenly, she turned around and waved toward the hall. You, Floaty, come here for a moment. Chapter 45. The immortal soul's entire body twitched. He said angrily, You little doll, you are so rude. I am Golden Immortal Bitao. Although this is just a remnant soul, it is still an immortal soul, all right? What the hell was a floaty soul? Was he an ordinary floaty soul? He was an immortal floaty soul. Oh, I know. Float over here for a moment. Do I have to go over just because you asked me to? Bitao snorted coldly. He had no intention of floating over. He had emotions too. Master, it is? I Ching paused. Remnant souls were not easy to detect. What's more, the palace was filled with immortal chi. They really did not notice that there was a remnant soul in the palace. Oh, he said that he has been waiting here for tens of thousands of years, Shen Ying explained casually. He insisted on giving me the inheritance, but he did not succeed. Inheritance? Lone Moon was shocked. He looked at the remnant soul in disbelief, and then at Shen Ying. He can't be the owner of this immortal palace, can he? He focused and saw that the remnant soul was indeed surrounded by immortal chi. This really was an immortal soul. You little doll. You have good taste. Bitao floated over, satisfied. He looked Lone Moon up and down and said, I am indeed the owner of this immortal palace, the sect master of the Core Yang sect. My Dao name is Bitao. Holy shit, it really is him. Although you are a sword cultivator, you have a supreme grade fire spirit root. Not bad. You have a good aptitude for alchemy. Bitao looked Lone Moon up and down, satisfied. He stroked his beard and changed back to his sage-like appearance. Little doll, you and I are fated to be here. Well, how do we get rid of the array on the wall? Shen Ying interrupted him. You are really infuriating. Bitao, who had been interrupted again, was furious. Do you know how to respect your elders? Choosing a successor is a very important matter. This is not as important as a mere array. You have no spirit root and did not want to accept this inheritance. I did not make things difficult for you. Now that someone else can inherit it, why do you have to be unjust? It's not me. This old man has waited for 50,000 years, forcefully holding on to a strand of my remnant soul, all for the sake of inheriting my Core Yang sect's alchemy arts. Naturally, It's up to the capable to accept it. I think this person is very good. Wait, I know you want to chase after that cultivator, but why are you in such a hurry? As long as one of you accepts the legacy, ascension to immortality is just around the corner. There's no need to fear him in the future. Actually, everything has its priorities. Think about how many alchemy geniuses our core Yang sect has produced in the 10,000 years since its founding. In the end, they couldn't escape the fate of destruction. However, the legacy of this sect couldn't be broken. Today, I will pass on this to Pong. Before he could finish speaking, he felt a pain in his face, and his immortal soul was directly punched out. He rolled repeatedly on the ground like a salted fish, his mouth still uttering the unfinished sentence. You. Along the way, he crashed into a wall and stopped. Shut up. Xin Ying's eyes narrowed. She quickly walked over and picked up the weightless Bitao from the ground. Now, can you open the door? His handsome immortal face was now red and swollen, the size of a fist. Against his white robes, it looked especially bright. A while later, yes, great immortal. Leave it to me, great immortal. I Ching, Lone Moon. What was going on? Why did he not feel surprised at all? Bitao scrambled to his feet and floated obediently to the wall. He began to seriously dispel the array. What a terrifying woman. Lone Moon had thought that she was immortal with no spirit roots. He did not expect her to be able to hit even spirits. This person must be a great immortal from the upper world. She must be. As he trembled to him that, exalted immortal. May I know what is behind this wall? Lone Moon suddenly felt that this person was a little pitiful. Bitao was the owner of this immortal palace, so he should be very familiar with this place. Inside is. Bitao glanced at Shun Ying and trembled again. He immediately dropped the long lines that he had said earlier and answered quickly and concisely. The elixir storage room. It's where I kept my elixirs when I was alive. Elixirs? Lone Moon paused. Could it be that Qing Yi was after one of the elixirs inside? But he was already a traveling immortal, and his cultivation level was stagnant. What kind of elixir could make him so excited? Bitao continued to dispel the array as he said, I think that person's goal is most likely the immortal transformation pill inside. There are immortal transformation pills here. Lone Moon exclaimed. When I was alive, Bitao looked at Shunning weakly and replied, I think. I kept a few. What's an immortal transformation pill? Shunning asked. Lone Moon's expression darkened. After a while, he said, an immortal transformation pill is an immortal medicine that can repair immortal bones. It can only be found in the immortal realm. In ancient times, before the three realms were separated, the people who became immortals lived in the same land. This is an ancient immortal palace. That's why it has. Why does he want it? Because he's a traveling immortal. I Ching's expression darkened as well. He continued to explain, Master, the so-called traveling immortals are people who have failed to ascend to immortality. But there are also people who have gone through the heavenly tribulation. When they go through the heavenly tribulation, their immortal bones will be formed. But if they fail the heavenly tribulation, their immortal bones will be destroyed by the heavenly lightning. Chapter 46. How is this possible? Qing Yi's face was filled with disbelief. His expression was one of panic, as if he was trying to stop his cultivation from dropping. However, no matter how hard he tried, the spiritual qi still dissipated and his cultivation returned to its original state. No. This is impossible. This is clearly the immortal ascension pill. This is clearly it. Lone Moon casually picked up one of the pill bottles and looked at it. Only then did he realize that the sealing array on the bottle had long disappeared. Without the protection of the array, as time passed, the pills inside would naturally lose the effects they should have. It seemed that no matter how strong an array was, it was useless against time. It was no wonder that they had been able to enter the immortal palace so easily. There was not even an array formation on the door to stop them. The only array formation in the entire hall that worked was the one in the elixir storage room. Bitao's immortal soul was nearby, and the array formation was maintained by his immortal power. Qing Yi, who had completely lost his immortal ascension dream, was in a frenzy. He grabbed a few bottles of pills and swallowed them. When he realized that none of them worked, he glared at the three people at the door. "It's you. What did you do?" His entire face contorted. His eyes were so fierce that he looked like he wanted to bite a piece of flesh off of them. The three of them. "You ate expired pills, and you're blaming us?" Qing Yi's gaze suddenly landed on Lone Moon. As if he had thought of something, his eyes cleared up and became filled with greed. "That's right, the vegetation spirit and the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit. As long as I have that, I can refine another immortal ascension pill." The recipe for the immortal ascension pill was not a secret in the Azure world. That was because it required immortal herbs, not spirit herbs. Immortal herbs could no longer be found in the three Azure worlds. That was why he had set his sights on the storage room of the Immortal Palace. But the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit could sense all the spirit herbs and immortal herbs in the world. Perhaps he could really find the ingredients he wanted. "Give me the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit." He suddenly turned and summoned a fire dragon, which flew towards the three of them. The fire burned all the pills in the room to ashes. Out of habit, Lone Moon summoned a protective barrier. Shining frowned, but I Ching stepped forward and waved his sword. Sword chi exploded from his body, forming a huge sword that cut the fire dragon in half. "Master!" He suddenly turned to look at Shanning, his eyes filled with determination. "Please leave this person to me. I will not bring shame to the sect." "You're crazy." Before Shanning could answer, Lone Moon spoke first. Although he did not become an immortal, he is still a traveling immortal. You can't beat him at all. If I Ching insisted that he did not have the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit, they could still destroy the Black Heaven sect. Not only would they be able to avenge the three of them, but they would also gain a new power in the lower realm. If I Ching did have the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit, that would be an even bigger surprise. And they really did have that thing. Everyone present understood this logic and could see it clearly. However, in the face of the upper realm's aristocratic families, the tiny Black Heaven sect did not even have the right to resist them. The strength of the two sides was not proportional at all. Moreover, there were so many low-level disciples. No matter what the result was, the Black Heaven sect would suffer heavy losses. I did indeed see the 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit in the secret realm. I Ching's expression darkened. Naturally, he had guessed the other party's intentions. He walked past the crowd and said, "But it was not your Xian Yuan family who brought it into the mystic realm." As soon as he said this, the traveling immortals on the lotus flower all paused. On the other hand, the people of the Black Heaven sect were in an uproar. They all turned to look at I Ching with unfriendly eyes, especially those disciples who did not know the truth. It can't be. So he really took it? No wonder the people of the Upper Azure world are so angry. Isn't he a sword cultivator? Why would he want that sacred alchemy item? Who wouldn't be jealous of that kind of treasure? I saw that he was only a nascent soul before, but the moment he came out of the mystic realm, he was already a soul formation cultivator. Who would believe that he didn't have a treasure on him? Sigh, how did our Black Heaven sect produce such a person? The more Lone Moon listened, the angrier he became. He wanted to rush into the crowd and sew up these idiots' mouths. Even some hall masters turned around and tried to persuade I Ching. Supremacy I Ching, if you really took that 1,000 leaves vegetation spirit, why don't you return it to them? Why drag the sect down with you? Shut up. Lone Moon's heart sank. He glared at the person who spoke. How could he say something like that? When those three people came to Black Heaven's sect, if not for their incompetence, how could I Ching, a nascent soul cultivator who had just entered the sect, enter? It was not easy for him to come back. He even brought back so many spirit herbs and gave them all to the sect. Now that a disaster was upon them, were they going to disregard his life for the sake of survival? How shameless could they be? Moreover, it was obvious that the Xian Yuan family was deliberately looking for trouble. How could they blame it on I Ching alone? He was just unlucky enough to be captured by the images of those three people before they died. This is not what I said. It's from the Upper Azure world. That person took a step back, but he still did not give up.